And so here's another example of a medical message with regard to childhood obesity. He says it's no sweat running the latest software. We say, what about a mile? What's he going to say to that? Right? There's no chance you're going to get this kid to run a mile. What if you changed the message and you said, well, what about walking 5,000 steps? What about walking down the trail? Right? This is the potential, I think, in the role that we have in the recreational world. There's another example. Once our kids played like their lives depended on it. If only kids still did. Right? Chunky, hefty, big bone. These are the things. These are the excuses that we've come up with to describe our children who happen to be a little bit overweight. But again, here is a kid, and the counterexample are what? Organized sports activities. What is the chance, those of you who have all been kids, that this kid is going to be asked to play that? Right? Pretty slim. And this is a medical message. This is the message that they're trying to get. And that's not what I think what we're all about in terms of access, etc. So, here's another example from my own organization, Orthopedic Trauma Association, right? How are we going to get the kids promoted to get outside? Not this way. Over the river and through the woods to the trauma center we go. Right? So this is actually, and that's not me. People ask me if that's me in the middle. That's not. It kind of looks like me maybe in 20 years, but the point of this message was we saw a rash of orthopedic fractures as a result of ATV injuries. So this became a public health mission for the Orthopedic Trauma Center, Orthopedic Trauma Association to really be careful. But again, an opportunity was really there. I mean, what if Derrick, what if the OTA came to you and said, hey, we've got a rash of broken bones, but we don't really want to discourage outdoor activity? Right, imagine what you could have done with that, with this. This became pretty big. This is in a lot of doctors' offices. All right, so the public health message tells you what to do. It says exercise. That's not really what we want to hear, but that's what it tells you. What the public health message fails to tell you is how and where. Right? It's still missing the issues of how and where. These are still the questions that I asked 5 years ago that I still ask today. And partners in outdoor recreation can provide the answer, I think, when we talk about the how and the where. The recreation message that we all have is what? Is this? Right? You can think back to that exercise message. That's not what we want. That's not what my kids want to hear. They want to see this. Get out and have fun. Well, recreate, what does that mean? Recreation is the refreshment of health or spirits by relaxation and enjoyment, or an activity or pastime that promotes this. Whew. God, we have something like that. Now, this is what we're talking about, right? You talk to your kids, hey, do you guys want to go out and do this? Or do you want to go with Shaq and hang out in the gym and watch him switch? Not me. All right, so as a result of some of those activities back in 2004, 2005, some of you will remember this. Bob Radcliffe's here somewhere. I think this is a project we did with BLM way back then. These are the types of messages that we were able to create when I was a fellow. And this is the type of thing that I think is probably central to our message as outdoor enthusiasts. Take a hike, get fit with us. Below it's a Healthier Yes initiative that talks about getting healthy in the outdoors. Turn off the TV, get out in America's public lands, right? These are the types of messages that I think even the medical profession would endorse. Imagine if we had different logos on the bottom, which we'll talk about in a minute. Here's another one with the Forest Service that we did, and you can get there from here. And here are some of the pictures and images that we're talking about in terms of slimming down, getting outside, getting active. Again, remember, if we had something other than Get Fit With Us, which is a program we created when I was a fellow, but what if we had the Forest Service next to endorsed by the American Medical Association, right? We still talk about these as potentials, and I still think that's a reality that's coming. The recreational activity, we know that the physical and mental benefits of recreational activity are extremely well documented, and so many people have studied this. It makes your kids smarter. ADHD and children are better able to concentrate after contact with nature. We know that children with views of and contact with nature score higher on tests. I think Stephen talked about that as well. Play is more diverse and imaginative and creative when you're outside, and improves children's cognitive development by improving their awareness, reasoning, and observational skills. These things have already been, we can almost assume this is fact. It's been so studied to death. There is no study out there that countervenes these things. No study out there that says if you go outside, you'll be stupider. Not one. So as a result, we assume this is true, right? Why do we? And it's funny because when I speak about these issues on occasion, people ask me, well, how do you know that's true? Well, I'm telling you, here are the studies. Give me the study that shows me that it's not true. Nobody, they say, oh, I guess you're right. All right, what about stronger? More advanced motor fitness, including coordination, balance, and agility. They're sick less often. Nature buffers the impact of life stresses on children and helps them deal with adversity. Again, what's the countervening argument, right? Being outside makes you less coordinated. No. Being outside makes you, more susceptible to stress. Right? I haven't seen that study yet. All right, and better. Play in a diverse natural environment reduces or eliminates bullying. Nature helps children develop powers of observation, creativity, and instills a sense of peace and being at one with the world. Children who play in nature have more positive feelings about each other, and outdoor environments are important to children's development of independence and autonomy. Right? These are all the great things about nature. And in fact, as I look back at some of these studies, I find it comical that we actually had to prove this through a series of scientific studies. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you Google or go to PubMed about the relationship between the outdoors and children's health, you see hundreds and hundreds of articles on this. All right, so we also know that why children are such a focus, especially today, is because we know that 90% of active adult participants in outdoor recreation started between the ages of 5 and 18. Right? This is a generational thing. This isn't about taking a preschool and pouring out nature and being good while you're 5. It's about being good when you're 55. Right? Most of us have done something when we were kids or have stories about when we were children relating to the outdoors that we continue to express to our kids today. Is it the gateway to better health? This is a premise that I put forward in 2004, where we know that based on the fact that hiking, biking, and camping have the greatest longevity of any of the human-powered outdoor sports. If you're introduced to hiking early, you're much more likely to do it as an adult. Viscerally, I think everybody believes this. Well, what it does is it drives you into other areas of outdoor activity, right? If you're a hiker, you're more likely to climb. If you're a camper, you're more likely to go snowshoeing or go cross-country skiing or kayaking, not necessarily the entry sports or the entry activities, right? But the things that will lead you to a whole world of different types of recreation. So that's why I think hiking, biking, and camping tend to be the area of most focus, or we should focus on these areas as that gateway to a different aspect of activity. The marriage seems so perfect, right? For every outdoor recreation person in here, there should be a doctor on your arm, in my opinion, right? It's so perfect. Because the purpose of parks and recreation, as well as public health, is to seek the highest possible quality of life for individuals and communities who share the same mission. And so here's an example of where I think messaging worked, but it didn't have the longevity that we need, but I think it's time to rekindle this. So in June 2002, this is in the summer that President Bush had passed the Healthier U.S. Executive order requesting all of the agencies to work together toward making people healthier. You may have seen this in Trails for Health, promoting healthy lifestyles and communities. Wow, what a fantastic message, right? This is perfect. This was it, June 2002, all over it. Who put it out? HHS and the CDC. Where are we supposed to do all this stuff, right? At the time when I started in June of 2003, I looked at this community, and the first thing that jumped out at me was not the message, but was the counter message. It basically told every federal land management agency they're not part of this, right? And that was the message that they sent forward. There's a few people in here who were there when I was there, and they know that we were talking about this quite a bit. So in 2004, we changed the message, right? And this is what we had done. Something very different. For the first time, I was told for one of the first times, you had the Department of the Interior and the Department of HHS sitting together on a pamphlet to do something together, right? And here you have the Forest Service, President's Council on Physical Fitness, and the CDC working together towards the same similar message when it comes to physical space and physical activity.